I want to tell you something that took me years of gardening to finally understand. The most beautiful gardens I have ever walked through, the ones that stopped me completely, the ones where I stood at the gate just staring before I even thought about going inside, almost none of them were expensive. They just looked expensive. And there is a very big difference between those two things. People spend enormous amounts of money chasing a garden that looks full and established and intentional. They buy the largest specimens at the nursery. They hire designers. They replant every season because they've filled their beds with annuals that die the moment the weather changes. And year after year, despite all that spending, the garden never quite gets to where they imagined it would be. Meanwhile, the gardener down the road spent almost nothing. A few small plants, a bag of seeds, a little patience through 1 or 2 seasons. And now their front border looks like something from a magazine. Soft textures layered behind bold ones. Color that carries from late spring all the way into autumn. Structure that holds even on a gray November morning when everything has finished blooming. The secret is perennials, but not just any perennials. The right ones. The ones that establish quickly, spread generously, bloom for months at a time, and somehow always manage to look like they cost far more than they did. These are the plants that professional garden designers return to again and again, not because they are exotic or rare, but because they simply work every single time. I've been growing perennials for a long time now, and over the years, I've narrowed down the ones that consistently deliver that expensive, curated look without asking much from your wallet or your time. 7 of them in particular stand out above the rest. And I want to walk you through each one properly. Not just what they are and what they cost, but how to use them, where they shine, and why they make such a dramatic difference to how a garden feels. Because growing beautiful plants is one skill, but placing them well is another. And when you combine an affordable plant with a thoughtful placement, the result genuinely looks like something that cost 10 times what it did. So let's start at the beginning. Number 1 is lavender. If there is one plant that does more for the perceived elegance of a garden than any other, it is lavender. I am completely convinced of this. You can have a very simple garden, a basic border, ordinary soil, nothing particularly remarkable going on. And the moment you introduce lavender in any meaningful quantity, the whole space shifts. It starts to feel Mediterranean, considered, like someone with genuine taste made decisions here. Seeds cost just a few dollars, and even established small plants are typically found in that $10 to $20 range at most nurseries. For what you get in return, that is an almost unreasonable bargain. Because lavender doesn't just give you flowers, it gives you fragrance that drifts toward you when you brush past it on a warm afternoon. It gives you silvery foliage that looks attractive even in the months when nothing is blooming. It gives you that soft, hazy purple color that somehow goes with everything else in the garden without ever fighting for attention. The practical side of lavender is just as impressive as the visual side. Once it's established, it genuinely does not want much from you. Full sun, well-drained soil, and a light trim after the main flush of blooms. That's essentially the entire care routine. It tolerates drought with patience that most plants simply don't have. It doesn't need feeding, it doesn't need coddling. It just quietly goes about the business of looking extraordinary, while you focus your energy elsewhere. In terms of placement, lavender earns its keep along the front edge of sunny borders, along pathways where people will walk close enough to catch the scent, and grouped in repetition along a fence line or house foundation. That repetition is important. 1 lavender plant is lovely. 3 is charming. 7 planted in a loose, flowing line creates something that looks genuinely designed. And that's when people start asking, who did your garden? Number 2 is coneflower magnus. There is a particular kind of confidence that certain plants carry. They don't blend in. They don't quietly fill space. They stand in the border and declare themselves, and the entire planting organizes itself around them. Coneflower magnus is exactly that kind of plant. And the fact that you can find seeds for just a few dollars and nursery plants for somewhere between 10 and 25 makes it one of the most extraordinary value propositions in the entire world of perennials. The blooms are rosy pink, large, and carried on upright stems that hold them at a height where they genuinely command the eye. There is nothing delicate or tentative about them. They read as bold and full, even from a distance, which is exactly what a border needs if it's going to look professionally put together, rather than just randomly planted. Beyond the flowers themselves, Magnus has a reliability that you simply cannot put a price on. Heat doesn't bother it, drought doesn't discourage it. Poor soil, which defeats so many plants, barely slows it down. It returns every year with the kind of consistency that lets you plan around it, build other combinations beside it, and trust that it will be there doing its job regardless of what the season throws at the garden. The way to use Magnus well is to place it in the middle layer of a border. Not at the very front where it might overwhelm smaller plants, and not lost at the back where those beautiful blooms get partially hidden. The middle is where it anchors everything. Pair it with ornamental grasses that pick up and carry the movement around it. Put something soft and fine-textured in front to contrast with its boldness. Let it repeat in groups of 3 or 5 rather than planting single specimens. And suddenly the border has a rhythm to it that feels intentional rather than accidental. And there's something else Magnus brings that money genuinely cannot buy. The pollinators find it immediately. Bees, butterflies, goldfinches in late season picking at the seed heads. That living quality, that sense of a garden that is doing something, buzzing and fluttering and constantly visited, Magnus contributes to that more than almost any other plant on this list. Number 3 is Salvia caridana. If you have ever looked at a garden border and felt that something was missing, that there was color and texture, but no real vertical energy, no sense of upward movement to balance all the horizontal spreading, then Salvia caridana is precisely what you were looking for without knowing it. The flower spikes are deep purple, almost violet, and they rise with a clean precision that immediately introduces structure into whatever planting surrounds them. Seeds are very affordable, and nursery plants typically sit around that $10 to $18 range, which makes it an easy decision even when the budget is tight. What you spend on caridana, you recover immediately in the visual impact it delivers. This is also a plant that rewards a little bit of attention with a great deal of extra performance. After the first main flush of flowering, a quick trim, just cutting back into the fresh foliage, encourages a second wave of those purple spikes later in the season. So what might have been a 6-week display extends into something that carries the border through summer and into early autumn. For a perennial at this price point, that kind of extended season is genuinely exceptional. In the landscape, caridana belongs in the middle layer, where those vertical spikes can be read against the sky or against lower, softer plants in front of them. It contrasts beautifully with rounded mounding plants, catmint, coreopsis, anything that spreads horizontally, because it provides the upright counterpoint that makes both plants look better than they would alone. And when you repeat it in groups across a long border, it creates the visual rhythm that separates a thoughtfully designed planting from a collection of individual plants that happen to be growing near each other. That rhythm is what makes gardens look expensive, not the individual plants, the repetition, the pattern, the sense that decisions were made deliberately. Caridana, planted in threes and repeated across a border, delivers exactly that effect for almost no money at all. Number 4 is Coreopsis moonbeam. There are plants that shout and plants that whisper. A great border needs both. Coreopsis moonbeam is one of the finest whisperers in the perennial world. A plant so soft in its effect, so gentle in its color and texture, that it makes everything planted near it look more refined simply by association. The flowers are pale yellow, almost cream, carried in such quantity over such a long season that the plant appears to glow from a slight distance. Seeds are widely available at very low cost, and small plants typically range from around $8 to $15. For a perennial that blooms from early summer well into autumn with almost no intervention required, that price is genuinely difficult to justify passing up. Moonbeam thrives in full sun, handles dry conditions without complaint, and forms a neat, airy mound that never becomes aggressive or untidy. It doesn't spread wildly, it doesn't flop, it simply sits in the border, looking elegant for months at a time while you do other things. Place it toward the front or middle of the planting, where its fine texture and soft color can do the work of softening whatever is bold and structural behind it. It transitions beautifully between stronger colors, the deep purple of caridana, the rosy pink of Magnus, acting as a visual rest stop that lets the eye move comfortably through the border without feeling overwhelmed. That function, the ability to calm and connect, is something designers pay a great deal for. Moonbeam does it naturally. Number 5 is black-eyed Susan Goldstrom. If Moonbeam whispers, Goldstrom sings. Bold, cheerful, unapologetically yellow with that deep dark center that gives it its name. This is a plant that fills space with a confidence that makes a border feel complete rather than sparse. Seeds are widely available for just a few dollars, and nursery plants typically land between 8 and 18, making it one of the most affordable ways to introduce real visual weight into a planting. Goldstrom is extraordinarily tough. Heat, humidity, occasional neglect, none of it diminishes this plant. It comes back every year reliably, spreads gradually into generous clumps, and its dense growth habit actually helps suppress weeds between established plants. In a new border where gaps are still appearing, Goldstrom closes them quickly and makes the whole planting look fuller long before other plants have properly established. Use it in the middle of the border in generous groups. 3 plants become 5 within a couple of seasons. That expanding presence is exactly what a budget garden needs. Plants that grow into the space rather than requiring you to keep buying more. Number 6 is Catmint Walker's Low. Few perennials earn their place in a border the way Walker's Low does. The soft lavender blue flowers arrive in late spring in such abundance that the plant practically disappears beneath them, creating a flowing, cloud-like effect that looks simultaneously wild and completely intentional. Plants are commonly found in the $10 to $20 range, and they establish quickly and bloom generously even in their first season. Walker's Low belongs at the front of the border, where its naturally relaxed, slightly sprawling habit can spill gently forward over an edge. It softens hard lines, the straight edge of a path, the rigid line where border meets lawn, in a way that immediately makes the garden feel more natural and considered. After the first main flush of flowers, cut it back by about a third, and it will push out a second wave of bloom that carries the front edge of the border through summer. Paired with lavender, it creates a soft, fragrant, silver and blue front layer that looks like it belongs in a garden that costs a great deal more than it did. Number 7 is Yarrow Moonshine. Yarrow Moonshine closes the list, and it closes it with structure. The flat-topped golden flower clusters sit above fine, feathery, silver-green foliage that looks attractive even when the plant isn't in bloom. Seeds are inexpensive, and plants are typically found in that $8 to $15 range. Hot, dry conditions that stress other plants simply don't affect it. In the border, Moonshine provides the horizontal layer that ties everything together. While Caradonna reaches upward and Moonbeam drifts softly forward, Moonshine spreads its flat golden plates at mid-height and creates a visual ceiling beneath the taller plants. A layer that gives the whole composition a sense of completeness. These 7 plants, used together thoughtfully, create something that genuinely looks designed. Lavender and Walker's Low at the front, Moonbeam and Goldstrom through the middle, Magnus and Caradonna rising behind, Yarrow Moonshine threading through it all with its golden structure, an entire border, a genuinely beautiful one, built almost entirely on a budget. Thank you for watching this video. Click here to watch another video that might interest you.